file to fish through, it's kind of nice to make things, you know, a little bit easier to deal with. Another pro, though, is that you have the search feature where you can put in like a word search. Like if you have a particular, you want to look for Enochian, you can put in word search Enochian and it'll take you right to the certain places. So that's kind of a handy thing. As opposed to like if you've got like tons of paper diaries that you built up over time, trying to fish through that is just going to be a massive headache. Another thing that's nice about the digital thing is it's easily transferred from one place to another. So whereas if you have like tons of paper diaries that you're dealing with, or just one bulky paper diary that you have to take with you, that can be kind of a nuisance, whereas the digital thing is like a lot easier to transport. Even the files you can email to yourself, and then you can access them from any computer. One of the things that I got really in the habit of with the digitally keeping a diary, this is my process right now. I'll basically keep notes on my notepad on my iPhone, and I'll build up my diary on there, and then I'll copy, when it gets to a certain size, I'll copy and paste it into an email, send it to myself, copy and paste that into a Word file at the end of the diary. And I keep my diary usually from roughly equinox to equinox. So at the end of the equinox, each equinox, I'll start a new diary as a new file. So, but I'll cut and paste my updates into the file, and then I'll email it to myself at 2 separate email accounts on 2 different servers. And I have a folder in each of those that I keep my diary stuff in. So I'll have like 4 of the most recent updates of my diary on there in these Word files. And as I add a new one in, I'll delete the oldest one. And so I'll always have like a few different options just in case something goes wrong and something gets deleted or something like that. So this is my sort of what I've been doing lately for the past few months. And I find so far it works really well for me. But again, a lot of people like to use the paper route, and I haven't been doing that lately, but that's probably something I'll get more into when it's more relevant to what I'm doing as well. Let's see here. Okay, so I think I've covered all that stuff pretty much. What kind of diaries do anybody feel like sharing what their method has been and how useful it's been?
Well, I have been using it on paper, so I have a notebook that I'll bring into the circle with me, and then to keep track of it all, I'll take a photograph of the pages in my notebook. That way I have an electronic file of it as well.
Yeah, so that's another thing you can do. Rather than having to transcribe it, you can just scan it or take pictures of it and upload that, and you've got that as well. Especially I know I've seen some of your diary records, and those are like the kind of thing that doesn't lend itself to transcribing.
Right, yeah, because there'll be like random Hebrew gematria and things like that you couldn't easily type up.
Yeah.
So yeah. It helps to just write it all out, and plus I'm doing a lot of scrying as well in there, so having the drawings and writing is a little tricky to just do solely on the computer.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And there's also uniqueness to the penmanship. Sometimes that'll have an effect in ritual. I mean, in the Book of the Law it says, change not so much the style of the letter. So the actual handwritten version of the Book of the Law is supposed to have a lot of value intrinsically to the way it was written, the curves of the lines and whatnot. So it stands to reason that if you're doing goetic workings, or if you're doing some kind of channeling or what have you, there's potential for that. So you might want to actually have it in that original form rather than just the digital version of that, which loses any of that context. Anybody else got any?
I've been using this app. I tried out like maybe 5 different apps for iPhone that are diaries.
Mm-hmm.
I found one called Wonderful Days. It's like 99 cents. And then you can type anything you want. If I draw anything, you can take a photo and just tag it to that day, so the photo shows up at the bottom.
Oh, nice.
And then it syncs to online, so when I'm out somewhere, I can go to a computer and get it online, and you can also download the same app onto your computer, and all 3 of them are synced. So if I put anything onto my phone and hit sync, then it's also online and on the computer.
That's really cool. What's the name of that again?
Wonderful Days.
That's awesome. So that's another.
I tried a bunch, and a lot of them I wish would do that.
Yeah, yeah.
I tried this one, and it's like
Evernote is good for that too. It's free as well.
What's that called?
Evernote.
Evernote.
Yeah, it'll do the same thing. So,
cool.
I keep a very unique magical diary.
Mm-hmm.
I have an EEG. It's I don't know what it actually stands for. I can't remember, but it's a headset that you wear
Really?
and reads your brain waves. What you were talking about earlier, about your
Wow.
lecture. Well, yeah, when you're doing meditation and stuff, it's like, oh, I'm gonna write this down, and oh, I think I did this, and I think I did that, and it's like, no. When I'm looking at this thing and it's recording it over time, it's like I'm actually looking at my delta brainwaves, I'm looking at my theta brainwaves, I'm seeing how close my meditation actually is towards those brainwaves, and I've been doing experiments with people in different settings, in different environments, and all sorts of things, in different magical settings and stuff, with, actual linking brainwave research into
That is really cool, and that's actually a good example of, like, I mean, if you're doing that kind of thing and taking those kinds of, making those kinds of records, that is something that I think you should legitimately be sharing with, once you do have any kind of results or anything like that, as opposed to sort of keeping it yourself, if it be your will to do so. That's the kind of thing.
Lots of results that I'd love to share.
Yeah, I think that's like a lot of people could benefit from that.
I had to order it online. You can buy them for like $130. I write software for iPhones, and I just write software in general. And I bought it. It has an SDK, so I'm actually writing the software for the computer that you can control with your thoughts and your mind and everything. So yeah, it's like it's really interesting stuff to be able to actually be like, oh, my meditation was actually like, I actually spent this amount of time in like the theta brainwaves in that state when, I was doing
That's really cool.
meditation.
I mean, the nice thing is technology's moving along at such a pace that, like, 5 or 10 years ago, it would be easy to fall into the sort of cynical aspect of technology, but it's just things are happening now that are,
Can I suggest that should be a topic of a meetup group?
If you're ever interested in,
I'll happily bring it in.
That would be really cool.
Yeah, you do a
If you
whole
guys
speech
are-
on it.
We could do a workshop or something
Yes.
to get you down for that.
Of course, yeah.
'Cause
How are you on the meetup.com thing or the Facebook group? Or?
I was invited by Haru.
Oh, okay.
I don't know.
Are you on? Okay, meetup.com one or
No, Facebook.
Facebook? Okay, cool. Here. Okay, yeah, gotcha. Just because I have a meetup.com thing called Occult Philosophy Meetup, and there's also the Facebook group, which is the Toronto Thelema group. And the reason I'm mentioning those is because I don't know who's coming from what half the time. So, that'd be really cool to put together a workshop if you're down for something like
I'd
that.
absolutely
It'd be
be
really
down.
fascinating.
Like, I'd be interested in seeing if we have if people are willing to sit and meditate for 5 minutes or whatever with it and see.
Yeah, that would be
Oh,
really
the
cool.
results
Yeah.
you get out of it.
Absolutely.
I've seen some pretty fascinating things.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, neurofeedback.
Very
I
cool.
love
Very
it.
cool. Okay, well, let's put that on the back burner for now and
Sorry,
consider that to the future because that's a really cool concept.
Yeah.
And that brings forth a really cool point in terms of all the other possible technology that's applicable as well.
It was what Crowley was saying. I don't know. I read about how you keep a magical diary that's pen and paper, and it's you're supposed to be oh, during my meditation, my thoughts traveled off here, and suddenly I wasn't meditating anymore. I was thinking about this or whatever instead. Well, this is you don't have to stop and write down, oh, I stopped and thought. It's no, that's right there. I see that.
Exactly. That's one of the nice things because that's one of the general problems a lot of people have is trying to keep track of things mentally at the same time as not thinking. So
exactly.
it's a little bit of a...
So that the computer's doing it for you, you're just
Yeah. Exactly, yeah.
can you meditate and speak into a microphone of what's happening as you're meditating? Can you do that?
This is another
and
possibility
have
as
a
well.
real-time record?
Yeah.
Along with, does your brainwave thingy also have a real-time record?
Yeah.
Oh, so you can correspond the instant you went into